Estate Roundtable. Good morning, gentlemen. We have in the studio Tom Lawrence and LOY HARDCASTLE.
Well, Loy's the gentleman.
Thank goodness we have Tom Lawrence in the studio. A great Count Basie tune. And then 1957, Patsy Cline appeared on Arthur Godfrey's show. You remember the Arthur Godfrey
I sure
show?
do, yeah.
And she sang Walking After Midnight.
Mm-hmm.
Great tune. You know, Patsy Cline was a marvelous singer. And
I'm going to say the best female country singer. Sorry, Dolly.
No.
The best female country singer and best crossover.
Her voice was so smooth,
Mm-hmm.
and what a delivery she had, and so forth. And now you know, Owen Bradley was her producer. Too.
Yeah.
You know, Owen had a lot to do with.
And she
her
recorded
sound.
good songs, which makes a difference.
She did. She definitely did. And here's another musician that had a tragic ending. Jackie Wilson.
Yeah.
Born on this day in 1962, appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show. But interestingly enough, on this day in 1984, he passed away after being in a coma for 8 years.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
And I don't. I wanted to look that up, but I just didn't have enough time as to really what had happened. I don't know whether it was a car wreck or what in the world, but being in a coma for 8 years is a long time. It's hard to believe. And then Aretha Franklin was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame on this day in 1987, the first woman to be inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Have you been to Cleveland to see the Hall of Fame?
I have not, but I'm sure it's really.
I'd like to do that.
I'm sure it's really, really interesting. Here's something interesting. Women would probably this would never happen today, but in 1908 in New York City, an ordinance was passed where women could not smoke in public. Of course, now they can't smoke in restaurants, which is a really great move up there. Nobody can, but yeah, women couldn't smoke in public. And then 1970, on this day, a Boeing 747 made its first commercial flight from New York to London, and it was a Pan Am plane, because Pan Am doesn't exist anymore.
No.
I flew on an old Pan Am 747 years ago over in Africa. And let me tell you something, that plane, and I'm not making this up, the ceiling in that plane was being held together with duct tape. I'm sitting there in this thing. It was an overnight flight, I think, from Amsterdam to Nairobi. And by the way, people could smoke cigars.
Yeah.
Oh, it was awful. I mean, it was just nasty. But anyway, I'm sitting there and I'm hearing all this rattling stuff going on. I look around me and it's dark because it's a night flight. And panels, the ceiling panels, the tiles, you could see it. I thought, what is that? That's interesting. Then I realized, wait a second, that's duct tape. they had those. And anyway, and that was a Pan Am plane. That may be another reason that they didn't make it. But, and then I think a lot of us will remember this. Lorena Bobbitt. Famous for some surgery that she performed, was acquitted on this day in 1994, and she proved that she was innocent because of I think it was called sexual assault by her husband. So she anyway, Lorena Bobbitt. There's a lot of jokes. I'm surprised there aren't laws that says whatever, but with her name attached to it.
What's the best airline you've ever flown? You've flown quite a bit. What's the best one you've ever flown?
You know, probably KLM.
KLM's a great airline.
One of the cleanest, if not the cleanest. And recently, I'll have to say, with this pandemic and so forth, Delta has been the cleanest.
Yeah.
And I think they actually spread out their seats in the plane. I believe they took out a lot of airlines, have put in more seats because they're on little tracks. They can just cram as many in there as they can. But Delta's very, very clean. But KLM, I think, was the nicest because, well, it just was really clean.
Yeah.
And the attendants, I don't think you call them stewardesses anymore, but the attendants were so well groomed and so nice, and everything was, the meals were good. And this was another overnight flight, and then they give you the towels in the morning, to clean your face and all these things. So
the really great flights are overnight, but the really long ones.
Yeah.
Cathay Pacific and Qantas
Okay.
Of
Good
course,
deal.
they're both
Yeah.
long-range
Yeah,
airlines.
yes,
so-
they are. Well, especially Qantas, I mean, that's gotta be built for that. But anyway, Everly Brothers, you were playing the Everly Brothers. I just wanna mention this. I don't know whether we've mentioned this before or not, but the Everly Brothers were, of course, a great duo. No question about it. Had great harmony. Of course, they were brothers and the harmonies were good. But just the notes and so forth that they sang, that particular type and style harmony was copied seriously by the Beatles. And I just finished a book about the Beatles, and there's a lot of time spent on discussing how they tried to copy the Everly Brothers. And you know, the Beatles, and again, after reading this book, they didn't just happen. They really worked hard
Yeah.
at their craft, and lots of rehearsals and so forth, and they copied, they said in their book that they were really looking at the Everly Brothers for their type of harmony. And when you hear some of these early Beatles songs, they are really singing that Everly Brothers type harmony, and it really came off well.
You know, in the recording arts and sciences, so the most important thing is to have a good engineer. The Everly
You're right.
Brothers did it without a good engineer. I mean,
Yeah.
they
just
did
had
not need an engineer.
They just had the talent, they had the
Yeah.
ear
Yeah.
for it, and even the way that, if you notice the way they played their guitars, they would back away from the mic and strum the guitar and hold the guitar. The Beatles did exactly the same kind of thing. But the Everly Brothers were popular in the early 60s, and that's when the Beatles were really coming on strong, or beginning to come on strong. So they were copying a lot of the Everly Brothers. But, you know, it worked for the Everly Brothers for a long time until they got mad at each other. And then it worked for the Beatles for a long time. And obviously eventually they split up. But at any rate, enough of that. We've got a lot of things going on that
Was Phil
discuss.
Everly the one that lived and died in Columbia?
You know, Ronnie and I were talking about that earlier. I don't know whether it was Phil or Don. I just don't. I
Yeah.
think it was Don, but I'm not sure. I had met one of them showing them a house, and I don't remember which one it was. They were looking at a house over on Fair Street, and the gentleman never did introduce himself. He just said, I don't know whether it said Don or Phil now. And it didn't dawn on me who it was until halfway through the showing. I realized, I kept thinking, who is this guy?
Yeah.
And then it finally dawned on me, wait a second, you're Don Everly or Phil Everly, whoever it was. But anyway, real estate continues to be a hot topic everywhere. And, you know, I keep hearing advertisements that people want to help you sell your house. Well, we talk about that, and sales are, you know, as good as they can be under the circumstances. And I say under the circumstances because the inventory, Tom, I checked the inventory yesterday, I didn't check it this morning, it was 238 houses.
Man.
Can you believe that?
That's normally, what, a week?
Yeah. And
Wow.
so our sales are gonna go down just because there's not enough inventory. I mean, the numbers just don't work. And then you compare that to, like I've said, back 10 years ago or less, when we'd have 22, 3, 4, 5, 600 homes at any given time on the market. And we're down to below 300. It's just unbelievable. And what's interesting is we have, as I mentioned, a lot of realtors in just this county, over 3,000 listed with WCAR. And so with 250 homes for sale, that's tough out there. So I want to make it clear that yes, I can help you sell your home, but I can also help you buy a home. And I've gotten into things that over the years, and we don't talk about it much, but heirs, children that inherit property. I had to get, for example, meet with a family on Saturday this past week. There were a total of 10 children and grandchildren in one group on one piece of property, and some of those were minors, so we had to get their guardians, which would be parents, their parents, to sign for them as power of attorney and those kind of things. I had to take a lawyer with me to get all that done so he could notarize the signatures. And that was a smooth signing right there to allow that property to be sold. But I can tell you, and Ronnie and I were talking about this earlier this morning, there are a lot of situations where you have heirs, siblings, most of the time, that don't agree. Sometimes they just don't agree at all, and they disagree so much that court has to get involved with those decisions. And I have been involved with a lot of those, and I'm getting into another one right now that involves quite a bit of acreage, and part of the family wants to sell, part of the family doesn't want to sell. And so at that point, you really have to go to an attorney and then take that case to court. And it's called, generally it's called a petition to partition, which is you petition the court to divide the property, to sell and divide the property. And that's generally decided, as I said, by a judge based on the evidence. And most of the time it's successful, because especially if you have a majority of heirs that want to sell and a minority that doesn't, it's generally, it's going to lean toward the majority. Not always, but most of the time. But those things have to be done, because you can't just go out here and put a sign on a piece of property for sale, or a house or whatever for sale, with that sort of issue going on. Because if you do sell it or get it under contract, you have to have all of the heirs to sign off on that. And if you've got 12 heirs and one holdout, you cannot sell that property. That one holdout has got to be dealt with, because it's not a democracy where you have a vote. It's you have to have every signature. So, and I'm saying that because if there's anybody listening that has a potential situation like that with either siblings or cousins or, you know, parents or whatever, that you're going to have to maybe sell property at some point in time, and there are multiple owners, you need to get those ducks in a row now, because if you wait till the last minute, you could, well, you certainly can't deliver the property, but if you get your hopes up that you did sell it, or you do have it under contract, and then you find out, wait a second, Uncle Bob hadn't signed off on this thing, and we got to have Uncle Bob's signature or we can't sell. And Uncle Bob just might not do it, but Uncle Bob could be ill. And I've run into that too, where you have someone that they say is not of their full mind and body, and the court won't accept that type of signature because it's sort of under duress or whatever, and you can't go in and get somebody's signature if they're not of sound mind. So these things need to be planned out in advance, and I can help you with that sort of thing, but a lot of times you might just have to go to an attorney, and there are a lot of great attorneys in Franklin that can handle that sort of thing. And it's not a big deal, but it's a technicality. It's like flipping that switch over there. If Ronnie doesn't flip the right switch, we're not going to be on the air, period. It could be one switch out of all those buttons and dials. And that's the way it is with an inherited situation. You've got to have all the switches turned on, or it ain't going to work. So we can help you with those kind of things. And like I said, it's not hard, but you do have to hit it head on and move forward.
With the inventory so low, does it ever happen that there's a knock on my door and somebody is standing on my front porch asking, what would you take for your house?
I hear that all the time, you know, and not just that, but people getting letters that says from somebody and they want to buy the house, or would you sell the house, or whatever term they want to use. So a lot of that is going on, and literally there are some people knocking on doors. Now, as far as real estate's concerned, or realtors are concerned, we're not really supposed to go door to door. Now, we can write you a letter and say, you know, I'm looking for something, or I have a client that's interested in something just like this, would you consider selling? And so all of that stuff is legal. By mail is legal, solicitation, things like that. But door to door is not kosher if you're a realtor and you're following rules. Now, I don't want to go too heavy on this, but rules are rules, and we have to follow rules or we can get in trouble. And if a realtor gets in trouble, their client is going to get in trouble, I'll tell you. I just had this happen yesterday, and multiple offers, as you know, are common these days. And when you get multiple offers, it's very tedious, it's very dangerous. But at any rate, we had received multiple offers on this one particular piece of property, and certain things have to take place on certain times. And all of it's written up. It's not just guessing, it's all written down in the contract. And we had gone beyond the time frame for a simple matter of getting the earnest money. It says you must deliver the earnest money at whatever you wrote in the contract. If it's 2 days, 1 day, 5 days, whatever, from the binding agreement date and time, and you have to put all that in there. You can't just put, January the 12th, you got to put it 3:05 p.m., Central Standard Time. Because it's that technical. We had not received the earnest money by 11:56 yesterday. And I was trying to think at 2 o'clock, well, what am I going to do? Well, I couldn't, the realtor wouldn't respond, wouldn't answer the phone, wouldn't respond to an email or text. And so technically, you're out of contract because we had not received the earnest money. And I've never done this in my real estate career. I had to can that contract and went to the next contract, which was just as good as the one we had accepted. But we had to just say, I'm sorry, you didn't perform on the contract, and you get upset and mad all day long, but we are following protocol and we are following rules, and we have to do that. We have to stick to procedure. And I'm working with a realtor in another county, and I won't mention the county, but it's in the east. It's to the east of Wilson County, up around a big lake, that direction. And you talk about failure to do procedures. I've never seen such, and I'm telling my client, who I hate to say happens to be an attorney, and he's going, what's going on? I said, I can't help it. I cannot physically go up there and make these people put on paper what we're supposed to have on paper. I just can't make them do it. And so we may turn into some sort of a dispute there. Nothing court-wise, but it just, you got to follow rules. And we have to do that. We have to follow ethics. We have to take classes on ethics. Contracts change all the time, are revised and so forth, and we have to perform. So keep those things in mind. We're really being watched, not only by our brokers, but our clients as well. And in Williamson County, we're really watched closely, and we should be, because we just want to do it legally and keep everybody out of trouble.
And LOY HARDCASTLE knows what to do. He's been in this profession long enough to know, and the smartest thing he said today is, if the realtor gets in trouble, the customer gets in trouble.
On the flip side, if the realtor stays out of trouble, the client is going to, and that's what I tell all my clients when I start to talk to them. I'm going to stay out of trouble. So you'll stay out of trouble. So let's just move forward and get this thing worked out. So whether you want to buy or sell, I can help you with both, and I can help you with these estate matters too. So give me a call, LOY HARDCASTLE, at Bob Parks Realty, 615-790-7400, or come to our office, which is right behind the Landmark Booksellers on Main Street in the new Harpeth Square building. Love to see you.